Italy, a country the size of Arizona, a cuisine that conquered the entire planet. Over 4 million Italians left their homeland between 1880 and 1920, and they brought their food with them. Today, Italian restaurants outnumber every other cuisine on Earth. There are Italian restaurants in Tokyo, Lagos, Mumbai, and Buenos Aires. You can find pasta on every continent, including Antarctica. But here's the thing most people get wrong. What you think of as Italian food, that heaping plate of spaghetti and meatballs, the thick pizza drowning in cheese, that version barely exists in Italy. Real Italian food is older, simpler, and far more fascinating than anything you've eaten at a chain restaurant. This is every Italian dish explained. Antipasto, the beginning of everything. Antipasto, before the pasta, before the pizza, before the wine, there is antipasto. It means before the meal. And in Italy, a meal without a proper beginning is no meal at all. Bruschetta is the oldest appetizer in Italian history. Ancient Roman soldiers toasted bread over open fires, rubbed it with raw garlic, and drizzled it with olive oil. That's it. That's simple. 2,000 years later, the recipe barely changed. Today, it's topped with ripe tomatoes, fresh basil, and a thread of golden olive oil. The crunch of the bread, the acid of the tomato, the bite of raw garlic, it wakes up your appetite like nothing else. Carpaccio is newer, invented in Venice in 1950 at Harry's Bar by a chef named Giuseppe Cipriani. He named it after a Renaissance painter famous for his deep red colors because the dish, paper-thin raw beef, almost translucent, draped over a plate with lemon and parmesan, looked like a painting. One dish, zero cooking, pure elegance. Caprese salad. 3 ingredients: sliced mozzarella, sliced tomato, fresh basil. Red, white, and green, the exact colors of the Italian flag. It was created on the island of Capri in the 1920s as a symbol of national pride. The best version uses buffalo mozzarella from Campania, so soft it barely holds its shape, tasting like fresh cream and salt. Pasta, Italy's greatest gift to the world. Pasta. There are over 350 officially recognized pasta shapes in Italy. Every single one exists for a reason. The shape determines the sauce determines the experience. Spaghetti carbonara. Born in Rome. Post-World War II, American soldiers brought bacon and eggs into Italy. Roman cooks took those ingredients, combined them with pecorino romano cheese, guanciale, cured pork cheek, and black pepper. The result was carbonara. Here is the most important thing to understand. There is no cream in real carbonara, never. The creaminess comes entirely from eggs and cheese whisked together and tossed with still hot pasta, so the residual heat turns it into a silky, glossy sauce that coats every strand. Cream is considered an insult in Rome. Spaghetti bolognese. What the world calls bolognese, Italians call ragu. It comes from Bologna, the most food-obsessed city in Italy, nicknamed La Grassa, meaning the fat one. The real recipe was officially registered with the Bologna Chamber of Commerce in 1982 to protect it from imitations. It contains beef, pork, sofrito, white wine, tomato paste, and milk. Milk, not cream. The milk tenderizes the meat and creates a depth of flavor that takes hours to develop. In Bologna, it is never served with spaghetti. It is served with tagliatelle, wide, flat, egg-rich ribbons that grip the thick sauce perfectly. Cacio e pepe. 3 ingredients: pasta, pecorino romano cheese, black pepper. That's the entire recipe. It originated with Roman shepherds who carried aged cheese and dried pasta into the mountains. Cheap, portable, eternal. Today, the best chefs in Rome obsess over it. Getting the technique right is incredibly difficult. The cheese must melt into the pasta water without clumping, creating a smooth, peppery cream that feels impossibly rich for something so simple. Lasagna, from Emilia-Romagna. Layers of fresh egg pasta, slow-cooked bolognese ragu, bechamel sauce, and parmigiano reggiano, baked until golden and bubbling at the edges. The oldest known lasagna recipe was found in a 14th century cookbook. It is barely changed in 700 years. Pasta alla norma, from Sicily. Fried eggplant, tomato sauce, ricotta salata, and basil. Named after the opera Norma by Sicilian composer Bellini, the dish was considered so beautiful it deserved to be named after a masterpiece. Sicilian cooking carries the influence of Arabs, Greeks, Normans, and Spanish, all passed through the island and left something behind. Pizza. Born poor, died rich. Pizza. It started as street food for the poor of Naples in the 18th century, a cheap, fast meal for people who had no kitchens and no time. Flat dough, a smear of tomato, maybe a sprinkle of cheese. That's all. Then, in 1889, King Umberto I and Queen Margherita visited Naples. A local pizzaiolo named Raffaele Esposito created a pizza in their honor using tomato, mozzarella, and basil, the colors of the Italian flag. He named it Pizza Margherita. The Queen loved it, and suddenly pizza wasn't peasant food anymore. The dough is everything. Neapolitan pizza uses only 4 ingredients: flour, water, salt, and yeast, fermented for at least 24 hours. It's baked in a wood-fired oven at 900 degrees Fahrenheit for 90 seconds. The crust blisters and chars at the edges, soft and cloud-like in the center. Here's the surprising part. Many Italians didn't discover pizza until the 1950s. In much of northern Italy, pizza was considered exotic, as foreign as sushi feels to Westerners today. Pizza's worldwide domination was actually driven largely by Italian Americans, who brought their version of Neapolitan recipes to New York and turned them into a global empire. Risotto, the North's answer to pasta. Risotto. In northern Italy, rice grows in the vast flooded plains of the Po Valley. Here, pasta takes second place. Risotto takes over. The legend of risotto alla Milanese begins in 1574. A young glassblower working on the stained glass windows of Milan's cathedral used saffron as a pigment. As a joke, his coworkers added saffron to the rice at his wedding feast. The result was a golden, fragrant, impossibly luxurious dish. The guests were stunned. The color was like eating sunlight. The technique is non-negotiable. Arborio rice is toasted in butter and onion, then hot broth is added 1 ladle at a time, each addition stirred until absorbed before the next. The whole process takes 18 minutes of constant, patient stirring. The reward is rice that is creamy on the outside, firm at the very center, bound together in a sauce made from nothing but starch and broth and butter. Ossobuco is risotto's eternal partner. Braised veal shanks, slow-cooked in white wine, broth, and vegetables until the meat falls away from the bone with a whisper. Ossobuco literally means bone with a hole. The hole matters. Inside the bone is the marrow, rich, buttery, and tensely flavored, and in Milan, they eat it with a small spoon, scooped out like a reward for finishing the meat. Topped with gremolata, fresh parsley, lemon zest, raw garlic, it cuts through the richness like a cold wind. Secondi, the main event. The secondo, the second course. Italy takes its meals seriously. Bistecca alla Fiorentina. Florence, a massive T-bone steak from the Chianina cattle of Tuscany, one of the oldest breeds of cattle on Earth, raised in the Chiana Valley for over 2,000 years. The steak is at least 2 inches thick. It is cooked over a wood fire, charred on the outside, cold and red at the center, seasoned with nothing but salt, pepper, and olive oil. Florentines consider adding sauce an act of violence against the beef. The steak is served whole for the table to share, dark and crackling at the crust, with the mineral sweetness of exceptional beef underneath. Saltimbocca, from Rome, thinly pounded veal, topped with a fresh sage leaf and a slice of prosciutto, seared in a hot pan with white wine and butter. The name means jump in the mouth because the flavors are so sharp and immediate, the dish almost leaps off the plate. It takes 8 minutes to make. It tastes like it took all day. Formaggi, the cheese that changed cooking. Cheese. Italy produces over 400 varieties of cheese, but 2 rule the world. Parmigiano Reggiano, the king, made only in a specific zone of Emilia-Romagna, following rules unchanged for 800 years. Aged a minimum of 12 months, up to 36. The result is a hard, golden, crystalline cheese with a deep, savory, almost nutty flavor. When you break it along its natural grain lines, never slice, always crack, it shatters into irregular, rough-edged chunks that crumble between your fingers. It is not just a topping. In Italy, it is eaten on its own with honey and walnuts as a course unto itself. Mozzarella di bufala, from Campania, made from the milk of water buffalo, snow-white, impossibly soft, swimming in its own way. When you cut it open, liquid runs out. It tastes fresh and milky with a gentle tang. It must be eaten within 24 hours of being made. After that, it becomes something else entirely, something lesser. Dolci, the sweet course. In Italy, dessert is not an afterthought, it is a finale. Tiramisù. Treviso, 1960s, a restaurant called Le Bicchieri. The name means pick-me-up because it was made to give energy. Layers of espresso-soaked medi fingers, mascarpone cream, beaten eggs, and sugar dusted heavily with bitter cocoa powder. The coffee hits first, then the cream, cold, rich, impossibly smooth, then the cocoa, a dry, bittersweet finish. It was invented less than 60 years ago. It feels like it has existed forever. Gelato. The Arabs brought the idea first. They made fruit and sugar sorbets cooled with mountain snow in Sicily during the medieval period. Italians turned that idea into something extraordinary. Gelato has less air turned into it than ice cream and less fat. The result is denser, more intense, and smoother. A scoop of pistachio gelato from Sicily, made with pistachios only from Bronte, on the slopes of Mount Etna, tastes like nothing else on earth. Bright green, almost savory, with a sweetness that fades slowly. Cannoli. Sicily. Fried pastry shells, thin, brittle, blistered with bubbles, filled with sweet ricotta and studded with chocolate chips or candied orange peel. They were originally made for Carnival, the celebration before Lent, a symbol of indulgence before weeks of fasting. The shell must be filled at the last possible moment before serving. Leave them too long and the ricotta softens the shell. The crunch is everything. Panna cotta, from Piedmont. 2 words, cooked cream. Heavy cream, sugar, and gelatin, set overnight until it trembles like jelly but melts on the tongue like liquid. Served with a sharp, bright berry sauce that cuts through the richness like acid through silk. It is Italy's most elegant act of restraint. Nothing hidden, nothing complicated. Cream made perfect. Café, the final word, coffee. Italy didn't invent coffee. Ethiopia and Yemen did. But Italy invented the culture of coffee. Espresso, a small cup, dark, concentrated, intense, with a thin layer of golden crema on top that traps the aroma. Drunk standing at a bar in less than 2 minutes because lingering over espresso is considered wasteful of time and flavor. Cappuccino, 1 part espresso, 1 part steamed milk, 1 part foam. Warm and velvety. In Italy, it is a morning drink only. Ordering a cappuccino afternoon marks you immediately as a tourist. Italians believe the milk sits heavy in the stomach and should only be consumed before lunch. Affogato. 2 ingredients. A scoop of vanilla gelato, a shot of hot espresso poured directly over it. The espresso melts the edges of the gelato into a warm, bittersweet pool. It is simultaneously a coffee and a dessert, and Italy cannot decide which course it belongs to, so they serve it after dinner and call it both. Italy has no single cuisine. It has 20 regions, each with its own rules, its own pride, its own ingredients. What grows in Tuscany doesn't grow in Sicily. What Romans eat, Milanese refuse. What the North makes with butter, the South makes with olive oil. But the philosophy is universal. Simple ingredients, perfect technique, nothing wasted, everything intentional. That is Italian food, not a cuisine, a way of life. If you learned something today, hit that like button. Subscribe for more Food Explained every week. Drop your favorite Italian dish in the comments below.